I knew I was toast the moment the new VP referred to compliance as admin clutter and smirked like he'd just reinvented oxygen. But the real sucker punch landed 20 minutes later when I found my termination paperwork, double-sided to save trees, sitting on top of my lunch in the shared fridge. Tuna salad, still cold. Severance, colder. Name's Dana Whitaker, 45, divorced, twice. Former senior compliance analyst at Neon Ridge Biotech. Or, I guess, just another former employee now. I'd been with that company for 9 years, long enough to see 3 CEOs come and go, 2 failed IPOs, and enough rebranding PowerPoints to drown a coastal town. My job wasn't glamorous, but it was critical. You know, all that shiny next-gen biotech innovation crap that gets investors buzzing and regulators calm? Yeah, none of that happens unless someone in the background makes sure every license, audit trail, and compliance checkpoint runs like a Swiss watch. That someone was me, the ghost in the beige cubicle. No one noticed I existed until I was gone. Then they noticed everything. But before we get to the implosion, quick pause. If you're one of those lurkers who listens but hasn't subscribed, hit the button. Toss us a like. Helps keep this little story engine running. Keeps our editor from screaming algorithm into the void at 2 a.m. Okay, back to hell. Picture this. Middle of Q2. Company stock peaking. 3 compounds in Phase 2 trials. Series C funding dangling like a flaming carrot. And the CEO tossing around a $50 million valuation like it was embroidered on his gym bag. Amidst the chaos, I quietly renewed the California Biologic Manufacturing License, like I had every year since 2015. No fanfare, no bonus, not even a working printer. Just me, doing my job while everyone else planned rooftop happy hours. Then he arrived, Troy Barron, newly minted VP of Strategic Growth Initiatives, which is corporate lingo for fire half the staff and rename it innovation. Fresh from some failed wearable tech startup, Troy came in hot. Custom suits, espresso like it was holy water. Called meetings pulse checks and referred to lunch as fuel breaks. His Slack profile featured a gym selfie and the quote, "Speed is the new currency." Within 5 days, he reorganized 3 departments, gutted procurement, and replaced the DEI committee with something called culture vibes. He once described compliance as corporate theater and used a popcorn emoji. Yes, really. The first time he looked at me, he blinked like I was a filing cabinet. Remind me again, what is it you do? This was on a Tuesday. I remember because the coffee machine broke and I nearly cried. State and federal filings, licensing renewals, clinical compliance audits, anything that touches regulatory exposure, I replied. He nodded like I'd just said, blah blah paper pusher blah. By Thursday, I had a calendar invite titled Alignment Sync and a dead-eyed HR rep handing me a misspelled envelope. That was it. No warning, no thank you. Out by noon. No one looked up. I wasn't angry. Not at first. It was more like I'd been hit with a velvet brick, shocked into silence. I packed up 1 snake plant, a pancreas-shaped stress ball, and a sticky note that read, "Don't forget Iowa by Friday." Guess I didn't have to anymore. But before I left, I did one last thing. Not revenge, not sabotage, just precision. I opened the California renewal, still due in 6 days. The authorized licensing agent still had my name, Dana Whitaker, in clean black Arial font. I clicked, deleted it, typed in Troy Barron. Didn't forge anything, didn't hide a thing. Hit submit, logged out. Because technically, he was now the acting VP. So technically, he should be the agent of record, right? No malice, no drama, just compliance. Done by the book. I dropped my badge at reception, walked past the lobby sign that said, "Invent boldly," and stepped into the June fog. That's when the real storm began. Troy Barron made his grand entrance like a TED Talk speaker with a caffeine addiction and something to prove. First day on the job, he pulled into the Neon Ridge parking lot in a matte black Tesla with plates that read Growth 2RK and shoes so glossy I could see my 9 years of underpaid loyalty reflected in them. He fist-bumped the janitor on his way in. Not out of respect, just performance. Proof that he was a man of the people. By 9:30 a.m., he'd already changed Monday's meeting from weekly ops sync to NRB huddle. By 10 o'clock, he was pacing the floor during the all-hands like he was launching a lifestyle app, not taking over operations at a biotech firm with 3 pending FDA audits. "Let's kill legacy thinking," he said, sipping oat milk like it was bourbon. "Let's go lean, clean, and regulatory mean. Compliance matters, of course, like flossing. Nobody enjoys it, but we gotta do it." There was some nervous laughter from the newer hires. The veterans exchanged glances, already guessing who was on the chopping block. He didn't call on me during the meeting. Didn't say the word compliance again. But the way his eyes slid past mine, like I was part of the carpet, told me everything. Later that day, at 11:41 a.m., I got the calendar ping. Chat with Troy. 15 minutes. No subject line. No details. Just the stale scent of HR diffuser oil and career death. I stepped into his office. Glass walls, motorized standing desk. One of those treadmill pads humming beneath his designer loafers. He gestured at a chair like he was offering me a spin on The Price is Right. "Dana, Dana, Dana," he said, like we were old college friends instead of 2 people who'd exchanged maybe 5 words. "Listen, first off, thank you. 9 years, that's real commitment." I nodded. Silent. "That said," he leaned back in his 2200 ergonomic chair and laced his fingers behind his head like he was about to tell me I'd won a raffle. "We're restructuring. Compliance is being rolled into legal. We're going lean. It's not personal. It's just overhead." I looked at him. Just looked. No blinking. No racing heart. No burning throat. I said, "Understood." What I didn't say was, "Your ignorance is radioactive and it's about to contaminate every asset this company pretends to control." He smiled like that was the end of it. "HR's got the exit docs. You'll get the Slack goodbye thread. Maybe someone will send cupcakes." I stood. My knuckles were white from gripping the chair's arms. White because I wasn't going to let this espresso-fueled MBA mannequin see me shake. White because this man had just decapitated the only person keeping the company's regulatory neck above water. I walked out. Straight past the ping-pong table someone thought would boost morale. Sharp right into HR. They were waiting. Folder prepped. NDA highlighted. Envelope sealed. "Do you have any questions?" the HR rep asked in a voice usually reserved for offering ketchup at drive-thrus. I shook my head, took the envelope, signed the forms, turned in my badge. But as I passed the 4th floor compliance server room, door marked authorized personnel only, I smiled. Just barely. Not because I was glad to leave, but because I already knew the next 30 days were going to burn. Not because of sabotage. Because Troy Barron was now the authorized licensing agent on all California filings. Hope he likes getting mail from the state. The hallway outside HR smelled like citrus-scented air freshener and finality. Not the poetic kind of finality, the kind where your badge stops beeping before you even reach the parking lot. I still had a few things left to finish. Not for them, for me. Riding the elevator back up to my floor alone, cardboard box under one arm, severance folder under the other. I passed by former coworkers who didn't even flinch. Eyes glued to their screens. The modern-day corporate equivalent of whistling past a graveyard. I sat down at my desk, still technically mine for another 20 minutes, and opened my compliance queue. 57 open tasks, license renewals, federal filings, jurisdictional updates. The kind of things no one notices until they go horribly, bureaucratically wrong. And they were about to. I wasn't thinking revenge. I wasn't furious. What I felt was colder, sharper, like the snap of a stretched rubber band finally giving way. I began cleaning, closed out minor tasks, flagged all the international renewals for review, transferred open audits to a shared folder Troy wouldn't know how to navigate if you handed him a GPS and a flashlight. I even left detailed instructions on who to contact at the EPA regarding reagent disposal policies. Because I'm not a monster. Then I got to it. California Biologic License number CB1497. Annual renewal due June 30th. There it was, as expected. Authorized licensing agent, Dana Whitaker. My name, my authority, my signature. I clicked edit, deleted my name, typed in Troy Barron. I didn't forge anything. I didn't tamper. I didn't submit fake documents. In fact, I didn't submit any documents because I couldn't. That was Troy's job now. As the new agent, he had to notarize, sign, and mail out paperwork to 6 state agencies within 7 days. I hit save. The system gave me a polite green checkmark. Submission successful. I added a note to the internal compliance tracker. Updated per org leadership transition. Awaiting re-verification by new agent. And that was it. Still legal, still accurate. Just incomplete. I logged out, cleared my Chrome history, removed my encrypted USB. Then I stood up and looked around the place I'd given nearly a decade of my life. The dent in the file cabinet I made in 2019 when I slipped on toner powder. The framed Dilbert comic still pinned to the break room wall. The window I used to stare out of during weekly stand-ups while marketing talked in circles. I picked up my box, walked past reception. Marcy gave me a tight-lipped smile. The kind you give someone whose dog just died, but you still owe $50. You were one of the good ones, she whispered, sliding my badge into a drawer. I nodded, didn't trust myself to speak. Outside, the June fog had thickened. LA gloom wrapping the Neon Ridge campus like a damp towel. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't flip the bird to the building. I just walked away, into the gray, because I didn't owe them anything. But the paperwork I left behind, it was about to make sure that Troy Barron owed me everything. The first ping came Monday morning at 8:12 a.m. The New York State portal flagged a licensing agent name mismatch on one of the filings. Nothing catastrophic, just a polite bureaucratic cough. An automated email was sent to legal. The subject line, missing notarized verification. Agent Barron Troy. Standard stuff, if you knew what you were looking at. But no one did. Because the only person who had was now at home, barefoot, pouring Chardonnay into a mug that read, I survived the 2018 FDA audit. I didn't check my inbox. Didn't check Slack. Deleted the app altogether. Felt like yanking an IV drip out of my arm labeled corporate anxiety. Meanwhile, back at Neon Ridge, the cracks were spreading like hairline fractures in tempered glass. By 10:42 a.m., Missouri's regulatory portal kicked back a red flag on Biologic Compound Group 2B, one of our flashiest trial assets. A gene therapy project so overstuffed with buzzwords you could sell it to a TED Talk audience just by whispering the acronym slowly. The alert read, License renewal pending. Agent re-verification required. Translation: You can't touch this compound until someone tells us who this Troy Barron guy is and why he hasn't submitted squat. That same afternoon, Clinical Ops received a soft freeze notification from MedSure Clinical Partners, one of our largest third-party trial firms. They cited regulatory inconsistency in licensing agent documentation and paused enrollment on 2 active trials. The email was worded politely. The subtext wasn't, we're not risking our necks for a company that forgets who's holding the clipboard. Inside the legal department's group chat, alarms were already going off. Wasn't Dana Point on all state verifications? Didn't she train someone before leaving? Who even is Troy Barron? No one dared say it out loud yet, but the smart ones had started sniffing. Tuesday morning, a second clinical halt came in, this one from MedTrack Systems, and it CC'd our CFO directly. Engagement paused pending verification of authorized representation. And where was Troy? Still buzzed on his own brilliance, bouncing a tennis ball against his office wall like he was prepping for a game of fetch. With himself. In the morning, huddle. He breezed right past the red flags. Just a couple back-end hiccups, he said with a grin. Syncing with legal. Nothing to worry about. No one looked convinced. Especially not legal. They had already realized no re-verification paperwork had been submitted. Not by Troy, not by anyone, and the whispers were growing louder. Did Dana really hand this off? Why would she assign him? She wouldn't leave something this important incomplete, would she? But Troy kept smiling. The kind of smile that hardens like a helmet when panic begins to bloom. Later that day, he scheduled a town hall to reinforce transparency. He used phrases like compliance realignment and onboarding enhancements. A lot of people nodded, but no one asked why our state portals were locking us out of our trials. No one, except legal. Meanwhile, back in my apartment, I was halfway through a flamingo-shaped puzzle and a bottle of Trader Joe's white wine. I hadn't responded to a single message, not from coworkers, not from the ones who suddenly remembered I existed. Only one made me pause. A text from Janelle Torres, a regional coordinator at MedTrack. Hey Dana, hope you're doing well. Quick cue, did you transition the licensing paperwork for CB1497 before you left? We're seeing a signature mismatch and not sure who to contact. I stared at it, took a long sip from my mug, thought about replying, then muted the number and flipped my phone over, face down. Let them figure it out. Every license I handled had a paper trail, a chain of signatures, and a very quiet hand steering the whole thing. That hand had left the building, and Troy? Troy had no idea he'd just kicked off an avalanche. Thursday night, 9:17 p.m. Neon Ridge's executive Zoom call looked less like a business meeting and more like a hostage situation. Lit by ring lights and regret, the screen was a gallery of tight faces and damp foreheads. Gerald Rowe, the CFO, looked like he'd been wrestling his own shirt collar for an hour. He kept tugging at it, as if fabric could make numbers behave. But it wasn't the financials that killed the mood. It was the question. And it came from Lawrence Griggs, the most vocal investor on the board, the same guy whose fund had just dropped another $12 million in Series C. His voice was low, deliberate, and the verbal equivalent of a scalpel. How can you assign a $50 million valuation? He said slowly, if your intellectual property is frozen in 3 states. Silence. That's not an asset. That's a liability in a lab coat. Gerald stammered something about temporary documentation gaps, clerical misalignments, agent re-verification lag. It was a hell of a euphemism for, we let a startup bro VP mess with our legal filings like they were Spotify playlists, but Max Patel, our general counsel, wasn't buying the spin. He was already sharing his screen. One by one, Max clicked through the state-level filings for compound CB 11497 and its sister compounds. California, New York, Missouri, Arizona. Each one showed the same change. Previous agent, Dana Whitaker. New agent, Troy Barron. Verification letter, not submitted. Max sat back, blinking slowly. Then, to no one in particular, he muttered, this doesn't make sense. Dana always submitted the verification the same day. A board member, or maybe just a ghost, murmured, unless she didn't. Max straightened. Unless she didn't what? Gerald cleared his throat. You think she left it like this on purpose? Max didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled up the California renewal form, the one I'd edited on my last day. There it was, in black and white. Previous agent, Dana Whitaker. Updated agent, Troy Barron. Verification status, outstanding reason for change, organizational leadership transition per VP. Baron Max leaned in, rubbed his eyes, and said it out loud. She followed protocol. Gerald blinked. What? She did exactly what she was supposed to do. Transferred the responsibility. Legally, precisely. And Max gestured toward the silent window where Troy's video had frozen in mid-blink. He never followed through. Suddenly, it wasn't just about forms, it was about control. Because in biotech, intellectual property isn't just data, it's leverage. Lose a license? You lose the trial? Lose the trial? You lose the valuation. Lose the valuation? You're just a lab with nice branding and zero credibility. Max opened Slack. Searched Troy Barron plus license transition. Nothing. Searched email. Still nothing. Then he pinged HR. Send me Dana's termination file. I need the exact time of her last system login. A minute later, the reply came through. Her last login? Same hour the California renewal was submitted. Max stared at the timestamp. She handed it off clean, he said. Gerald whispered. But he didn't file the reauthorization? Max nodded grimly. Which means we've got 4 frozen compounds, 2 halted trials, and a VP of strategic growth who just broke the regulatory chain on our most valuable assets. In the silence that followed, someone's dog barked in the background. Max muted his mic, turned off his camera, and opened a blank Word doc. Subject line, urgent, regulatory chain compromised, immediate review required. Because now, the dominoes weren't just falling. They were tipping straight toward legal disaster. Friday morning, 6:38 a.m. 3 emails, all flagged high priority, all landed in Max Patel's inbox like fire alarms in a wooden house. Missouri licensing rejected. Arizona Regulatory Office. Agent verification incomplete. Massachusetts Health Board. Licensing review. Paused. Each email had a different seal, a different font, a different digital tone of voice, but they all said the same thing. Your submitted renewal for biologic compound license number CB1497 is incomplete. Verification letter for listed agent Baron Troy remains unreceived. Deadline missed. License now under administrative suspension pending review. By 7:12, Max was on his second espresso, pacing his office like a defense attorney mid-trial. His paralegal, Zoe, sat silently with a yellow legal pad while Max dictated like he was trying to get every name, date, and signature down before the building burned. He pulled up the compliance tracker. Active licensing chain by state. 28 states, 17 still pending, 9 frozen, 2 on the verge, and at the center of every single rejected filing, authorized licensing agent Troy Barron. The name glowed in the spreadsheet like acid on skin. Max finally picked up the phone and dialed Grace Yoon, their outside compliance consultant, a woman known in FDA circles for surviving 5 regulatory raids, 3 whistleblower cases, and 1 deeply bitter divorce from a USDA inspector. Grace didn't do pleasantries. She answered mid-sip. Tell me why I've got 3 state regulators asking if Neon Ridge hired a new compliance firm and forgot to file it. Max exhaled. We didn't. We had a transition. Dana Whitaker was let go. New VP, Troy Barron, was assigned as licensing agent. There was a long pause. Assigned by who? Dana, before she left. Troy was supposed to file the verification docs. Another pause. Longer. Jesus Christ, Max. I know. Her voice dropped. You don't just slap someone's name on a form and call it done. There's a process, chain of custody, notarized confirmation. State compliance doesn't care about your org chart. They care about signatures, paper trails, liability. I know. Do you understand what happens if this cascades? One revoked license can trigger federal review. Your entire IP tree is hanging by a thread right now. Max rubbed his eyes. It's already unraveling. Legal was now receiving hourly alerts. Finance started asking questions legal couldn't answer. Clinical ops had gone silent, frozen in preemptive dread. And in the middle of all this, Troy sent out an all-staff Slack message promoting a team synergy offsite with trust falls and smoothie bars. Max didn't respond. He was already drafting a different message to the board. Subject: immediate regulatory breach. IP risk high. But before hitting send, he reopened the California license portal. There it was again. Dana's final submission. Previous agent: Dana Whitaker. Updated. Agent: Troy Barron. Verification: outstanding. Note: org leadership transition per VP. Barron. That last line hit him like a slap. She'd followed every rule, filed everything correctly, didn't sabotage, didn't delay. She handed off the responsibility, clean and legal. And Troy? He didn't even realize there was a next step. Max opened a private group chat with just 3 names: the CEO, the COO, and himself. He typed only one sentence: "We need to talk." Then he picked up his phone and made the call he didn't want to make. Get Dana Whitaker back, quietly, immediately, and pray she still answers. The LinkedIn ping came while I was watering my aloe plant and pretending the silence in my apartment wasn't suffocating. It was from Max Patel's assistant. Hi, Dana. Hope you're well. Would you be open to a brief conversation sometime this week? General Counsel's request. Just to talk. I blinked. I hadn't opened LinkedIn in days. The last thing I posted was a farewell message so sterile it read like an obituary. After 9 incredible years, I'm off to explore new adventures. 12 likes and 1 weird message about joining a pyramid skincare company. And now here they were, just to talk. I didn't reply. 10 hours later, I got an email in my personal inbox. Subject: consulting engagement, urgent, from M. Patel, Neon Ridge Biotech. No apology, no explanation, just desperation dressed in legalese. We'd like to discuss a short-term consulting opportunity regarding recent regulatory developments. Please advise your availability. Discretion appreciated. I didn't blink. I picked the cafe 2 blocks from City Hall. No one from Neon Ridge ever parked there. Too many meters. Not enough valet. I wore a charcoal blazer over a black tee. No earrings. No frills. The look of a woman with receipts. Max showed up looking like he hadn't slept in days. His assistant followed, clutching a tablet and the kind of panicked energy you only get from being 1 spreadsheet away from unemployment. They sat. I didn't stand. No handshake. No pleasantries. Max opened his mouth. Dana, thanks for meeting. I slid a single sheet of paper across the table. He blinked. What's this? My rate. He picked it up. His eyebrows didn't move, but his assistant's did. Is this hourly? She whispered. No, I said, sipping my coffee. That's weekly. 4-week minimum, non-negotiable. Max nodded slowly. I report directly to legal, not Troy, not ops, not anyone who thinks Slack threads count as documentation. He nodded again. And I want equity. He paused. Equity? 0.5%. 3-year vesting. I want skin in the game. I'm not cleaning up your mess for a gift basket and a LinkedIn shout-out. His assistant typed furiously. And I want board-level access to the compliance reporting chain. I continued. No red tape. No gatekeepers. Max looked around the cafe like someone might be recording. We'll need to get that approved. No, I corrected. You need to agree to get it approved. There's a difference. Silence. Cutlery clinked. Steam hissed from the espresso machine behind us. Then, "All right," he said quietly. "And Troy?" "Out," I said. "I don't care if he leads yoga. I don't want him within 3 folders of the license system." "Understood." Max paused, eyes tired but focused. "You didn't sabotage us, did you?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, I did my job. I submitted the forms. I followed protocol. The VP didn't." He didn't argue. 3 nods in under a minute. The man was a bobblehead of corporate remorse. We stood. They left. No hugs, no warm wishes. Just a quiet shift in power. They came to me. I didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't file a lawsuit. I just waited. And now I was walking back into the building, not with a badge, with leverage. The boardroom smelled like panic sweat and lemon-scented wipes. Half the execs were glued to stock tickers that wouldn't stop bleeding. The CEO's chair? Still empty. Delayed flight from Zurich. Fitting. Troy sat by the window, tapping a pen like he was trying to Morse code an escape plan. Max entered with a stack of folders and a face carved from granite. "Let's start with this," he said, dropping the California file on the table. "Agent Troy Barron. Verification missing. Result license suspended." More files dropped. Missouri, Arizona, Massachusetts. All frozen. All pointing to Troy. And all because he didn't finish what I legally handed off. "You didn't break protocol," Max said, looking straight at me. "You were the protocol." At 10:05 a.m., the CEO finally entered. "What the hell is going on?" Max didn't flinch. "Ask him who he fired yesterday." All eyes turned to Troy. He couldn't speak. He didn't need to, because by Monday morning, the door plaque outside my new office read, "Dana Whitaker, Chief Compliance Officer. No balloons, no dramatic monologue, no revenge speech. Just one quiet click." I opened the system. Searched. User, Barron, Troy. Status? Add active. Clicked. Terminate access. Confirm? Yes. The screen chimed softly, and that was that.